Leading off our discussion tonight is the Democratic leader of the United States Senate, Chuck Schumer, the senior senator from New York. Senator Schumer, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I want to get your reaction to the testing situation, first of all, with the White House itself, because we've seen this outbreak of coronavirus in the White House, the vice president's press secretary testing positive, and now others being concerned and self-quarantining, Dr. Fauci among them, because they've been in contact with that. What kind of example does this set to, let's just limit it to office businesses, let's say, big insurance companies, when people want to go back to work, what kind of testing, what kind of protection they need?
Well, Lawrence, it sets a glaring example of how we are so short of testing. If the White House feels that they need everyone in the president's near presence and everyone in the White House tested, what about everyone else? And perhaps the greatest failure of this administration is on testing. The president at that press conference said that they had really met the moment and prevailed. Really? We have so many deaths. We have increased number of diseases. We have people who don't have food, are worried about the roof over their head, and we have prevailed. And the irony for Donald Trump is he's desperate to get us all back working again. But until we have adequate testing, people aren't going to go back to work or go to the restaurants or go to the theaters or anywhere else. And we are way short of what we need. South Korea, at this point in their fight against corona, had about 2 million, had a per capita level that in the United States would be 2 million tests per day. They said we had 300,000 and bragged about it, which is really closer to 250, but it's not even close. I have been calling on the president for 2 months to use the Defense Production Act, to commandeer the factories and the supply chains and get those tests produced. 2 months ago, President Trump said anyone who wants a test can get one. Well, that may be true in the White House. It's hardly true anywhere else. And that is the biggest problem we face. And the huge irony of this is a president who's so desperate to push us to go back to normal doesn't have the ability, decency, honor, strength, competence to give us the tools to allow that to happen, namely testing and contact tracing, which the countries who have succeeded, there are models here. Unfortunately, it's not the United States. There are models as to what works. South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Finland, Singapore, 5 of which, by the way, had women as heads of state. But they knew what to do. Large amounts of testing that worked, accurate testing that worked, and then contact tracing. And their deaths, their disease is diminished. They are going back to work. Donald Trump will never get us back to work unless he starts looking at the truth. And one other point I'd make. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to hear the truth from an administration official tomorrow. Dr. Fauci is testifying before the Senate. We've been pushing McConnell to do hearings, to do oversight, to do what Congress is supposed to do, to prod this administration to do what it seems unable to do. And that is to bring people before us and do tough questioning. Dr. Fauci will have the opportunity to testify for the first time with Donald Trump not lurking over his shoulder. You know what I say to Dr. Fauci? Go for it. Tell us the truth. America needs to hear the truth, and President Trump, your boss, needs to hear the truth.
He'll be testifying to the Health Committee. It will be a historic hearing since he's going to do it remotely on screen. Some of the senators apparently will be joining remotely. Senator Elizabeth Warren's a member of that committee. There are some very experienced members of that committee who could give us the kind of dialogue that we have not seen yet between the administration's health officials and the Senate. What do you hope to come from that?
The clip that you showed shows what happens at these press conferences. Someone asks a tough question, and Donald Trump just attacks the reporter instead of answering the question. Fauci won't have Trump hovering over him. Let it rip, Fauci. Go for it. Tell us the truth. That's your obligation as an administration official and as an American.
Senator, what are you hoping to be able to do in the United States Senate? And let me just quote something Donald Trump said about Democrats, which I'm sure includes you the way he said it. He said, the Democrats are moving slowly, all over the USA. For political purposes, they would like to wait until November 3rd. If it were up to them, don't play politics. He just said that in a tweet, and he said it also, a version of it, at the White House press briefing today.
Well, this is the Donald Trump who said he wants to wait a while. He doesn't think we have to rush to do anything. This is the leader McConnell, who said he doesn't see the purpose of any kind of immediate action when we have food, lines for food that go miles and miles, when we have people not even able to be with their loved ones who are dying of this disease, when we don't have the kind of basic necessities that so many people still need in PPE and other things to protect themselves. And Donald Trump is now saying the Democrats are going slow. Mr. President, we forced you to do a large bill in COVID-3 that you didn't want to do. We forced you and added many provisions for hospitals, for workers, instead of just helping big corporations. We forced you in COVID-3-5 to start helping the smaller businesses and the unbanked. And now Leader Pelosi, and I've worked with her, is putting together a big, bold plan. If you want to get something done, Mr. President, stop attacking reporters, stop ignoring the truth, stop accusing Democrats of not doing anything. We're going to have a big, bold plan for you. Join us. Support it. Now, that'll make things better in the country. We won't solve all the problems with it, but we'll take a big step forward. Join us instead of calling names, instead of ignoring the truth, instead of not doing what we need to do in terms of testing and so many other things.
Senator, what is the timetable for the Pelosi plan?
Well, you know, she's working very diligently on it, and I think it'll be ready quite soon. I'm not sure exactly when. She's making sure that the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, and her caucus has great input, which they have. But the Senate, well, look what we did in the Senate this week. If you watched the Senate, you'd have no idea that America has had the greatest health and economic crisis in decades. It was sort of business as usual. Nothing about COVID on the Senate floor. Maybe one hearing, which we had to prod McConnell to do. Thank God Fauci is coming. And they're just sitting on their hands. McConnell today said he doesn't see the need for immediate urgent action. You know who he's reminiscent of, and Trump in many ways, when he says we can wait? Herbert Hoover. When the stock market crashed, Herbert Hoover had this ideology: let the private sector do it. Trump and McConnell seem to have the same. And just as then, the private sector is not capable of doing it, And if we don't have big, bold action, this is going to get worse and could develop into not just a deep recession, but a depression.
And it took leadership by a politician from New York, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, to show Herbert Hoover what had to be done. New York is looking to you for that leadership in the Senate. Senator, we thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.